1, go!
Welcome to the Set Count, your source for tournament results, storylines, and analytics set to the tune of your speakers. I'm your host, Vayseth, and to my right, well, actually, to my left, because I'm always moving everywhere. Actually, nowhere, because I'm not Vayseth at all. Vayseth is actually in Japan. This is Suar speaking to you, and today we're going to have a show between Sage and Suar from the Set Count.
What's up, guys? So, Vayseth is, currently unavailable. He has a very busy schedule in Japan. He's doing important Vayseth things where he has his hand in a bunch of different things, as he likes to tell everybody repeatedly on this show.
Yeah. Vayseth works in very mysterious ways, and he is in Japan right now with Nairo, Esam, and I now think Mr. R and Ally joined up for this weekend's tournament.
Yeah, Ally was in town for Midwest Mayhem 7, and then he was flying out another day or two later to head over to Japan. So I know he's over there. I don't know about Mr. R yet.
Yeah, he had made mention of picking him up, so I think Mr. R is getting his training on pretty soon. So that's awesome. But yeah, this is Suar from Panda Global, PG Stats, and we have Sage from Unrivaled. We're going to be doing a show entirely without Vayseth, so Mom and Dad are not home. We're free to do what we want.
The tyrant is gone.
The tyrant is gone. We're going to talk about esports and growing pains. And we're also going to be talking about the analyst desk and what that is, because it's been something that I've been a part of twice now. One capacity was a joke, and the other one was less of a joke. So we'll be talking about what that means and more, because so many people have misconceptions about it, don't know anything about it, or want to know more about it. We'll introduce everything again with the numbers, where we go over tournaments that happened this past weekend, and we'll close everything out with the run back, in which we answer some viewer mail. Anything else, Sage?
I think that's pretty much it. I don't think we have anything else going on. It's pretty chill episode.
Yes. So, the numbers.
It's time for the numbers.
We're going to go ahead and go right into it with 4 tournaments that passed the 100-person threshold. Of course, there were many more that happened this weekend, but they did not meet our one standard, which is at least 100 people. So we have, starting with 268 people in Tokyo. This past weekend, Nairo won the Umabura Tokaigi qualifier, with Zero Suit Samus taking a very nice qualification in the Tokaigi tournament that is going to be happening very soon. Tokaigi is, of course, the famous tournament in which Sakurai and Nintendo correspondents gather to see some of the world's best compete right there in Japan.
Gather to see who they're going to nerf for the next patch.
So the joke is that in the past, when Captain Falcon up-aired people to death, Meta Knight up-beat people to death, and who else was it? I think there was another. Oh, and Diddy Kong. Yeah, when Zero and Mewtwo King up-aired Diddy Kong to death, the following patches right after slammed them into the ground. They did it in front of Daddy Sakurai himself, and I think he took note of that. So I think there's 3 to 4 Bayonettas in this top 16.
I thought there were like 5.
Okay, bless. So we'll see what happens with that, and whether or not Witch Time gets removed, and she has 1 jump instead of 17.
I was actually talking to Ally at Midwest Mayhem 7, and we were joking about it. We're like, if he makes it to Grand Finals, he's just going to pick Bayonetta. And or either that, or he's gonna purposely 0-2 with Mario and be like, look, Sakurai, Mario needs buffs, help me.
Oh god, that brings us right into Midwest Mayhem 7, that of which Sage was personally at in West Chicago, Illinois. 155 people taken by Ned, who is actually now a free agent and not under your banner anymore. Is that so?
Yeah, he's at the skill level that he can get on an actual team versus us just helping him out as a stream organization. But we're going to continue to support him until he can find a big sponsor that will really give him what he needs.
And I respect that, because teams of all sizes, teams such as yours operating as a stepping stone for greater things, I mean, you kind of need that. And if he got too big for the nest, then that's better than him just not getting big at all. So congrats to Ned on his win and his free agency and newfound flexibility. So, King of the Springs 2 in Hot Springs, Arkansas, with 124 people with a Samsora Wadi Grand Finals. Samsora took it with his peach. And if you saw the already now meme-worthy down air to parasol rage kill, then you are missing out if you haven't seen that. He killed Wadi at 13%, like after hit. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw it. I don't know how to feel about it. I felt dirty.
I mean, that takes the Mario reverse up B to a whole new level. Like, he did it from platform height on Smashville. Not at the top, not in the blast zone, not in the character select screen or anything. Like, he did it at platform height.
It looks like almost a reliable punish out of shield where you can just like jump, float, down air, double jump, reverse parasol hit at 20, and you're just going to kill all these light characters for free.
Yeah, I mean, Samsora had over 120, I want to say 130% rage. The knockback it was just LOL. So congratulations to Samsora. He then took Grand Finals very convincingly with a 3-0, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please don't correct me if I'm wrong. But then we had Avalon U7 in Zoetermeer, Netherlands. Wow, I'm reading this and being very careful not to mispronounce anything. But we have the famed Mr. R taking a 111-person monthly with his... Actually, if I remember correctly, he didn't use Sheik at all in Grands or Winners Finals. He used a lot of Cloud. But Ramen, of course, staying active in his home region, has been stacking up quite nicely since there is a considerable skill gap in the following European players after him. But again, no shame on that. Congrats to Ramen, Mr. R, for taking Avalon U7. And that pretty much wraps up the numbers. There were tournaments that happened, one that I was actually at. So not even really a plug, but in Connecticut, there was a tournament I was at that had 65 people that Mars actually won, with Mr. E and Pugwest in attendance. Mars took the whole thing, but most notably, there was a Connecticut Fox player by the name of Light that beat both Mr. E and Pugwest. Speculated to be number 2 Fox in the U.S., free, according to some people, such as Kool-Aid, who is a New England native, and the person who won by circumstance the PG key to Genesis after Cosmos and others couldn't go. So look out for Light. Light is a Fox player that is a force to be reckoned with. He's only like 16 or 17. I mean, these kids are just ridiculous now.
Yeah, it's cool to see a lot of young talent
all the time.
I mean, Ned winning Midwest Mayhem over like Zenoto, Ally, and Javi and all these Mexican players is also 17 right now, I think. So
awful.
Crazy.
Having to go to a job, having to pay bills, having to stave off time for a significant other when you're 17 and you just got to eat a bowl of Fruit Loops to survive. I mean, that's crushing, man. But we did have these 4 tournaments total in 658 entrants, unique across the world. Of course, like we say, the other tournaments that did meet the threshold obviously probably put this over into the near 900s, probably 1,000. But we still see like a steady flow of people, in between these tier 2, tier 1 events. And of course, we got this weekend, 2GGC, Midwest Saga.
You can look forward to seeing a bunch of cool Midwest names to compete out there. Zenoto will be there, Ned, Tyroy,
False,
6WX,
all the SoCal natives. I mean, it's going to be, each event over there is a blowout now. It's like
crazy names.
Monthly. Yeah. So yeah, that'll cover the numbers, and we'll go in right into what I think is going to be a very complex, interesting subject, and one that we can hopefully shed a lot of light to. With, of course, Vayseth not being here and memeing the hell out of us, we can actually talk about in depth eSports growing pains. And I don't know if you guys saw, this isn't a plug, but just making fun of myself, but I made a tweet during the Super Bowl, mid like black bean dip. I tweeted that notice how the Super Bowl commentators point don't talk about themselves, point don't fake laugh every other breath, and point know the bracket, which apparently struck a nerve because 1,700 likes later and close to 400 retweets, we have like discussion across all boards where people are really looking at not only Smash commentary, but sports commentary and eSports commentary and drawing both appropriate and inappropriate parallels as we sort of move into 2017 with all these expectations riding on everything, but no money to match that, you know?
The money isn't there for sure. That's one of the biggest things. And I think when people start to compare both Smash commentators to esports commentators and esports commentators to sports commentators, something you have to kind of keep in mind is that it is a different environment. You're catering to a different audience. In your regular sports commentary, you're catering to a general mass, right? Like there's people from all over the world watching this, all ages and things like that. Your esports commentary, you're typically catering to guys who are like 20 to 30 years old.
It's pretty niche. It's pretty niche. It's pretty special interest. I mean, you can make references that are so culturally specific, which is, I think, the, sort of appeal behind it when they're talking about, like, when they say, like, the water temple. We all know what that means, Like, something that is, like, impossibly and needlessly hard and convoluted. References like that work in esports commentary because we've all been there, benefit some of the personalities we have. But I think that a lot of people also took the tweet as sort of a stab at like the current like caliber of commentary, because immediately a lot of B-listers started jumping on and sort of like not defending themselves, but just like making themselves heard, because I think they didn't want to let something like this just hang in the air. And I think that it's important to note that the 3 points I mentioned weren't something that was necessarily supposed to make it so that we strive to be like Super Bowl commentators, because you're right, it's different. It's football. And also, when you compare the resources they have at their disposal compared to a commentator at Midwest Mayhem, like, it's laughable. Like, from what you understand in sports commentary stage, what is underneath that commentator? Like, who's holding him up? What teams? What sources of information? At the least.
For sports commentary in general, you have a whole crew who's basically feeding these guys information. Like, they don't sit at home and study the stats that they need to know of these players.
The frame data?
The example frame data. It's literally, there's jobs on site for live broadcasting where your job is literally to connect with a stats website, which all these organizations, all these Big Ten networks and stuff like that, they work with stats organizations who have both cameras live at events and guys watching the broadcast who are just writing down stats, right? Like, that's their whole job, is just like, I'm going to count how many passes are thrown, how many yards the running back makes and stuff. And they're just writing all this stuff down. And then there's dudes on site who the job is literally just to like press F5 and refresh, press print, and then like sprint to the casters and hand them this new information so that they can say it.
So you're telling me there's like both static and dynamic PG stats teams, like on the field and in the air, of 20 to 30 people big?
I don't know about like on site, you'll have maybe 2-3 guys for something large like the Super Bowl, and then you'll have maybe 4 or 5 guys watching, probably doing stats. But for a typical game, you'll have maybe 1 or 2 guys on both ends. So you'll have like a team of 4 dedicated to every game doing stats.
Wow. And I mean, it's funny because like right now, our limitations from not being able to be at like certain events and stuff have prevented us from doing the sort of things that you're talking about. But at the same time, like I was saying, the things I was suggesting weren't sort of ragging on commentators for not knowing things, although people like Silent Doom maintain that there are some facts that commentators should know by now since the game has been out.
Absolutely. The stuff that commentators are doing on sports events where they're analyzing the way a play happened, that's all them. Like, that's all their own knowledge. There may be a telecaster, or not a telecaster, teleprompter, sorry, where nearby they're kind of feeding them different like points to hit or something like that. And also there's a guy or two dedicated just to running a teleprompter. So like, hey, we need you guys to speak about this, speak about this, speak about this, whatever. And there's on the teleprompter, usually when they don't have anything to talk about, that's when they look at the teleprompter and they go, oh, look at this information. This guy has made it into 17 different 17 different playoff games doing this, whatever.
Yeah, just like having just like a feed of stats just running in the background to refer to at any moment's notice.
It's like they have a bunch of stats on them printed in paper. They have a bunch of I'll see if I can find the link for it, and I'll link it in the description for our YouTube channel for this video, where there's a bunch of images that came out once that showed all of the stats pages that get fed to like a basketball commentator throughout a basketball game, and it was like 14 pages, and they were all just like loaded to the point where it was hard to even look at what you were seeing of just numbers and things. So like
just text files, not even like organized word pads.
You have all this information that's getting fed to them constantly. You have guys who are making sure that then when they don't know what to say, there's just a big old screen next to them that tells them what to say. There's a whole team dedicated to making sure that these guys, A, never shut up, and B, never say something dumb.
So things we don't have. But I think also like they're getting paid, which a lot of people also maintained on the Twitter thread that like they'd do a better job, they'd be in better shape if they were paid more, or if they were paid at all. And that's a really contentious point, because I also then started seeing people say that at the moment, nobody deserves to get paid, except nobody for the S tier names, like the typical TK, Coney. But like, I mean, how do you feel about that? How can you ensure quality without compensation and not get compensation until quality is ensured? I mean, it's sort of like an impossible task. It's sort of like Sisyphus rolling up the hill with the rock only to come back down because the weight is too good.
It's impossible. So it's hard to want to pay commentators when the guy organizing the event isn't getting paid, and it's hard for a streamer to want to pay commentators when they're not getting paid. I mean, like we don't make a whole lot of money from an event. It's just like, and most of it that we do.
Well, it's to say you don't make a lot of money to take home just to cover your costs, right?
I mean even costs are like, right now for us as like an early stream organization, our overhead costs sometimes, like if we're trying to upgrade to a new thing for our stream, overhead costs can be anywhere from like $1,000 for a small upgrade to like $4,000 to $5,000 for a large upgrade. It's anywhere between $2,000 to $6,000 for a camera. And when organizations are getting anywhere between like 300 to maybe $3,000 an event tops at like a top end, then I mean, what are you going to pay your commentators when you're like, well, I can pay all these casters $3,000, or I can buy a new camera and make our broadcast better? And it's
okay. Where are they paying any Smash caster $3,000 as a total? Like,
well, I mean, just if you're setting aside that much, so like Big House paid casters really well. They had a pretty good budget.
Can you say how well?
I know the numbers. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Just well is
more than McDonald's and Chick-fil-A.
Like you could get a good chunk of McDonald's meals from what they got paid, right? Like we're talking like their budget for that was
respectable,
not hefty, but good. It was a good budget, and
better than most.
Yeah, it was hands down the best caster budget that I had ever seen, rivaling that of small time radio broadcast.
Ooh.
So like that was cool, and that's great. And Big House paid all of their staff fantastically. I have nothing but praise for the Big House staff on that end. So definitely go to Big House to help them continue to do so. But it's tough when A, the money's not there, and B, the talent's not there. Because if I want to pay casters, like these guys that are getting paid on channels, they're running like training camps essentially for their casters. There's like practice sessions and like, hey, we have to do live dress rehearsals and all this stuff. And when the only time I have access to you is the day of an event. Like, I don't...
Maybe do a color correction and call it a day.
Yeah, like, it's tough. We just now hired a makeup artist now, who's going to be traveling with us to a lot of events. She'll be at Frostbite, so I hope you're ready to feel pretty AF.
I hope to get my fake lashes put in. But seriously, it's kind of and it's interesting because like this notion that commentators should be paid so that they can bring the talent that they're kept from doing because they have to work elsewhere, or that they don't bring because they don't owe it to you, right? Like they're not going to try their best because they're not getting paid. And it's like, here I am making a global ranking system, not getting paid, not necessarily at least. And I have to try my best in every single regard, or I'm potentially getting in a lot of trouble because I just failed the community on something, like whether it's Sonic Death or someone not being ranked when they should or whatever. I mean, at what point does a commentator get to maintain the argument that they're not getting money when overall from Bear to your local TO isn't getting the sort of money that you think they are, any.
I don't pay myself with Unrivaled tournaments at all.
Well, there you go. To streamers, I mean, the most well-earning streamer that I could imagine at this current moment is probably Gimmer, and there's only one Gimmer in the entire world. From there, it starts falling exponentially.
And he's even said that they're barely making it by, and they're the largest Smash streamer there is. So
and they have the second or top largest local in the entire world. Second to MSM or first to MSM, depending on the week, whoever's traveling. I mean, they got an impressive, like, nearly 128 perfect man bracket almost every week in the summer when everyone's available. I mean, that's huge. They get 3,000 to 4,000 viewers each Tuesday night for Xanadu. Like, that's him, right? When we're talking about the sort of scale that people think when they think about like streaming, like I'm gonna be a big time streamer, and like Nairo's maybe pulling in like 1,000, 1,500 because he's like the best one, and Antai's pulling in like 500, 600, 700, but like Seagull from Overwatch and Faker from League are pulling in like 250,000.
Did you see what Faker hit when he went live?
Wasn't it 250,000?
Yeah, it was like 250,000 or 240,000. I think was what he hit. It was the largest personal stream that's ever happened.
That's our Nintendo Switch announcement view count. Like, how can you... Okay, so going back...
Hold on, real quick, though. For those who don't know, Faker is the world's best League of Legends player. Like, hands down free. He hasn't ever streamed. Anyone from the telecom team hasn't streamed before. And Faker was like the first one. This is his first live stream, just happened the other day. And he hit 240,000 views just of him playing League of Legends casually.
That's so funny. Feeding the enemy team. But yeah, like we go back to this, like, I'm not going to do the work that you expect me to, or I can't do the work you expect me to because I don't get paid, but there's no bread to pass around. So that doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. And then all of us are sort of doing this anyways on top of our jobs, but we're expected to do perfectly, or we're expected to do well. You think, I mean, Gimmer's an exception because this is his career, but for someone who, streaming isn't exactly their entire career, but it's supplemental to their career, if the stream goes down, they get flamed. And they can't be like, oh, we don't get paid enough. Like, if you paid us like they did in Hollywood, we'd do a better job. Well, yeah, you would. Because you'd have a team of at least 40 people setting the stage and working on everything, and camera to lighting to all this other stuff. So, I mean, it comes down to kind of pulling your bootstraps and being like, I need to do better because the community needs it. Because the expectations that we're going to have on each other are going to be set by each other. And if you don't meet those and you John about money or this or that, I mean, I don't think you belong in the lead. I think you belong as someone who's going to support everyone else. But if you're going to be that trailblazer like Silent Doom, who out of the box has this stuff down pat, Silent Doom isn't getting a salary. Silent Doom doesn't have anyone, like, he doesn't have tenure with anybody. Like, he's doing this, and he's also working on graphic design and, from what I understand, 3D modeling with Wave Dash Animations or something, Wave Dash Sports, something. Sorry if I butchered everything. I'm so
Wave
sorry.
Dash, that the Smash game that's coming out.
Something like that. It's like he works as a part, like as a designer, and like he doesn't do commentary every day, like as his full-time job, but he's like easily S tier, breakout star this year.
Here's the thing: you're gonna have all these guys who are gonna come out and be like, I don't get paid, so I'm not gonna do it. But eventually, the idea I think that everybody needs to keep in mind is that we're all working to try and make it so that eventually people will get paid, right? That's the goal. Is eventually this is going to be able to be people's careers, and we're going to have streamers and broadcast, and we're going to start calling it broadcasters instead of streamers, because that's what you're doing. You're broadcasting, and you're going to have your shoutcasters and your analysts and your coaches and these players, and it's going to be this huge esports production, and that's what we all want, right? That's all the Smash guys are like, we want to be esports, want to be esports, want to be esports. So right now we're working towards that. So if you're going to be the guy that says, well, I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to get paid, somebody right next to you is going to go, I'm going to do it and work really hard so that when people do get paid, I'm the one that's noticed.
I'm the one that's first in line. Exactly. And that's why you got to recognize the grind that some of these people are making. Like some of these people who are actually studying the game. Like they just sit down, they go on, kuruganehammer.com, they open up every possible web page on VODs that are relevant to the current meta, and they just start studying. I mean, it is an art. Like, it's one of the harder ones because it's a constantly evolving thing. And as I've talked to before, for example, I've talked with Bam, like, there are top players that haven't even totally grasped the full complexity of the game. Like, I just saw Zenu tweet that, like, man, the more I play more and more, the more I realize I don't know everything about this game. And here you have somebody who comes in to commentate after getting off at their job at 6 to go to a local at 6:30, and they're fresh off the grill, and they're looking at this matchup between Olimar and Game & Watch, and like, what are they going to say? Like, what are they going to say about that matchup if they've never studied it, or if they even know anything about Game & Watch, or if they know anything about Olimar? Well, maybe they knew about Olimar because they studied DeBuzz's Olimar when he used them to counterpick, or maybe they followed the Mexican scene and they knew Reggie's Game & Watch. I mean, somebody else might have known that, but bottom line, like, yeah, it's the grind that needs to get respected over the entitlement, because right now, like, it's not that no one deserves to get paid. It's that, one, it can't happen right now, and two, once the money comes out, there's already an established hierarchy that has been forged out of those people that have been grinding.
I mean, like, you look at TK and you look at like D1, they did this for years and years and years on no pay. And now they're getting like a little bit of money, and they deserve a lot more than that. But it's what we're able to provide right now. But when the money comes in, if it ever comes in, that's another thing. There is always that if.
Yeah, that's harsh, and you got to work with that if. I mean,
yeah, but like, they're gonna be the ones that get paid.
Exactly, and they do have, very incidentally, they do have the privilege of saying, nah. Like, I don't want to do it. Like, they have that privilege because they've been doing this, pedaling and like going and grinding and not sleeping and 6 people to hotel room and all that for years to be able to say, I don't want to commentate that top 8. And it doesn't hurt them, maybe for the weekend, whatever, their branding gets impacted, but they've already built such a sizable brand. I mean, D1 is literally the ambassador for both Smash games to the outside world. TK is literally the voice of, he's like the MC, like the premier MC for Smash. Like, that stuff was from years of sacrifice and years of this not playing around with expectations, not demanding payment, and they now get that privilege to say no. But people mistake that. And like we described in an earlier episode, when you kind of sort of outlined the structure of how people get involved in sports commentary, of locker room, podcasting, sports analysis, pre-show, post-show, until they finally get to the mic, people, well, the wrong type of people get to the commentary position in this community and think that that's it. Think that that's where it's the be-all, end-all. Like, they made it. They got a couple Twitch followers after a stream. They made it, but they didn't go it through, what TK and D1 went through to be able to even fully appreciate that, or let alone earn it,
Yeah, it's a super long grind, and there's a bunch of established names in it already, and there's not enough positions to open up people who are grinding to give them their like breakout opportunity, I guess. There's not there's not the floor reporter, and there's not the like post game analysis type guy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you said yourself, like, when we had the question the other week of what event is a good one for commentators to break out at, and it's like, well, not Evo, not any tier 1 event. You start to go down the list and you realize, like, yeah, I mean, if it's a tier 3 event, like, no one's really gonna watch that. And if it's a tier 2 event, you're competing with the other tier 2 events that same weekend. Like this past weekend, we had Midwest Mayhem 7, and then we also had the King of the Springs, and then we had the Tokaigi. I mean, there's so many things that are going on each weekend anyways for you to be able to break out, like truly seize the internet, that weekend. So, I mean, that's
it's tough.
My heart goes out to them.
It'll get better as more like sponsors kind of take notice, more money flows in, and we can do these larger productions that are going to take more of a team than just, your 2 casters on for the 2-hour block that they're scheduled for. I mean, you have casters that start in regular sports just as like writers.
Yeah.
If I went to a caster right now and was like, yo, I'm looking for writers for Big House 7, which...
What are you talking about?
Yeah, they would just stare at me and be like, okay. So the jobs are going to come. They're going to come in ways that people, I don't think, expect them initially. So make sure that if you're a commentator and you're looking to have to make it to the mic on the big stage, be ready to do a lot of things
that you're not ready to do initially.
Yeah. Be ready to interview, be ready to give live floor reports, be ready to write, be ready to do stats on the sideline. Like, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do that as a streamer that I'm going to be looking for in the near future, like hiring a makeup artist. No one's ever done that in Smash. We're the first.
Yeah, I mean, there might be someone with makeup on the side helping, but for an actual, like, budgeted line item, I mean, yeah, congrats on that.
The only other event that I've ever known in Smash to ever do makeup for their casters was MLG.
Oh, well, that's MLG.
Yeah, that's MLG. So we're the only one that has done that. So more jobs are going to be opening up, and I have a lot of plans for 2017, and I know other streamers do too, that just be ready for anything is kind of what I would say to anyone who's looking to break out.
Yeah, and again, that's like the theme centering around growing pains, because during this entire time where you see somebody like Silent Doom enjoy the reward of finally being at a 2GG main stage, and you see more and more people like Max Ketchum and Keitaro go to like Rio E games and like cast a top 8 invitational during like the Olympic season. Like, it's hard to see those things and not be jealous if you're trying to do those things, but realize that those people that have those things not only deserve them, but they're doing it so that you can do it one day too. They're the trailblazers. They're the people who will make it so that this can be a job that you can plan your career around. I mean, this is like super future talk, but like when Overwatch came out with their league and described it as being something that people can have as full-time career options and opportunities with medical insurance and whatever, I mean, that was revolutionary, one, but also that sort of trailblazing and this sort of like sacrifices necessary, such that we need to unite behind those people and push the names that are going to get us realized by Nintendo, by Asus, by Logitech, by whoever the hell makes whatever chair we're sitting on at whatever tournament. Those people that we band behind are going to catch the attention of those established brands and get that money in, get that infrastructure in. And we won't do that by trying to support every budding commentator that's trying to commentate, because quite frankly, like, you're probably not as good as them, and you've also just not earned your stripes yet. It's just how it is. Like, you have to do so much to get even a little bit ahead right now, and the people that are going to do it are already doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue kind of into, because we're talking about other jobs, to have a quick little discussion about analyst desks.
Yeah, so Sage, the only person to have ever put on a, I believe, legitimate analyst desk.
I'd say the one at Big House for Melee was all right.
Smash 4.
Smash 4, yeah.
So there was a Big House Melee analyst desk, which received a lot of flack due to scheduling.
It was just they didn't really have a CD, like a creative director, keeping them on track or like timing anything. So it kind of just flooded for Melee. If you guys watched Melee Big House 6.
I saw Reddit threads, but again, that was Gimmer trailblazing in his own regard. And that's, again, Gimmer alone pushing that sort of initiative. Because, again, this, at least with you and I, like, I'm fronting a lot of the creative side while you're fronting the technical side. I mean, Gimmer's just doing both, you know, or just fully focusing on one.
Yeah, the thing that the main difference of the Gimmer analyst desk and what we kind of tried to do at 2GG Zero Saga, which the Zero Saga one we'll talk about, because we did talk about it in the first episode, and we'll talk about it a little more on like kind of what happened. But the big difference was Gimmers was super analytical of what happened after a match. So they had a bunch of replays and they were like, look at this is what happened. But it wasn't a whole lot of like prep. There wasn't any writing for it. There wasn't any graphic support being done live. The difference for what we did at Zero Saga was we did all of our stuff was prepped. And it was all done live graphics. So it wasn't replays. It wasn't analyzing a match. It was kind of setting a tone for who you're going to see play. And like, these are the set counts that they have. Here's the bracket. Let's talk about these players, what they've done. Here's some of their good placings. Here's what to watch out for, whatever. So I think ideally I would like to see a combination of both if the resources come about.
Yeah, because I think Gimmer's style, well, not necessarily, I don't think he just necessarily decided the style, but I think that is valuable too, because we receive flack, well, limited flack, of analysis being absent at the analyst desk for matches at 2GGT Zero Saga, because we didn't have live replays and we didn't talk about things that just happened as they happened. We talked about entire like rounds ending, like when we talked the next morning of the day before when like Dunkmaster Ragnar like did his stuff. You know, that's all we would say, but we didn't talk about the set as it ended and analyzed how he adapted to what he was doing, you know, but both of those should be blended. But at the same time, like, as we'll talk about now, like, analyst desks have been a misconception, not only for Smash, but in general, like esports. I mean, I think each esport or video game claiming to be an esport has different ways in which an analyst desk should and could be handled. I mean, how you would structure an analyst desk for a 5-on-5 MOBA or a 6-on-6 shooter versus a 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 fighting game, I mean, there has to be differences, right?
Yeah, it's different because a MOBA has, the reason that desks work so well for like League is you have this great little section where you just have to fill time because teams are planning their next game and stuff like that.
Banning.
That doesn't yeah, and there's like this, well, even before that. So like a game ends in League and then they go back to the locker room and it's essentially like in between quarters at like a basketball game. And you're sitting there just like, there's nothing to do, so the desk comes on and just highlights all this stuff that happened, talks about what might happen, and it's great. Smash is different. We're like top 8. We're blanketed like 3 hours on average for an event for top 8. And to throw a desk in between that's going to be 10 minutes and super analytical is super tough. You're not going to hit your time then. But at the same time, you want to be able to kind of talk about what happened. So I think there's definitely a way to do it in there where maybe you have a minute or two where the desk cuts away in between matches while they find other players and the players do their hand warmers, and you give the commentators a quick break to, you know, grab a drink of water and go to the bathroom or whatever like that. So that's like super helpful in that regard.
But the thing too is that has the possibility to go awful. And one of the reasons why we didn't integrate, because originally the plan at 2GGT Zero Saga was to integrate pre-show, post-show, pre-pool, post-pool, pre-top 32, pre-top 8, and whatever. We were supposed to actually do top 8. We were supposed to actually be the cutaway during top 8.
Similar to how Melee did it, except instead of doing it after every game, my plan was to do it after every round. So like after both winner semis had played, we were going to go do an analyst test for like tops like 4 minutes.
Yeah, but as you remember, that didn't happen because we didn't do it. And I actually made the executive call with Sage like the night before because we sort of saw that needing that finesse to be able to cut away after a set to a desk and back just wasn't present at the event, which wasn't to any fault of the event organizers or the TO, but just because the culture right now in commentary and Smash hasn't built up to that moment yet, not without training or coaching. And
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's something that I think I wouldn't want to do. I wouldn't want a fully integrated analyst desk and have to cut between casters and desk and back to a floor during top 8 and stuff, unless I had a team that I had actually trained myself.
Exactly, because you can't just like have the match end and have Bam and D1 like jokingly freeze and point to the desk as the camera doesn't change, you know, like that's awful. And that's not to say that they would have done that, but it's just that there was no briefing whatsoever. And if you're just yelling into the headset, D1, we're going to cut to the analyst test, then he's going to be interrupted with whatever he's saying. There's no way to digest what just happened in the match from the caster's side. It can turn into a mess.
Right. You need cues, you need training. So it's something that I definitely want to do, but until there's a money situation or there's an event where casters are comfortable, because most casters arrive the day before, like that night, and it's just, you really can't speak to them at all unless they like come by because you're setting up and stuff. So unless there's an event that gives us like 2 days ahead of time to plan out this whole production and just be insane with what we want to do, an analyst desk in its like full fruition is probably never going to happen unless money comes in.
Yeah, I mean, for the parts that it can happen though, and what's going to be at Frostbite, I'm excited. And for what we've had in the past, like the analyst desk is supposed to be this platform that normalizes the tournament as an esport that people can understand even if they're not following the entire tournament. Like if you tune in, because so much of what's going on right now is there's a lot of bleeding from region to region because there's so many events going on, so many people coming through, so many invitationals and this and that, and MKLeo's like in America and Allies in Japan and Nairo's in Japan and ESAM's in Japan and all this stuff. And at Frostbite, we're going to have 10 Japanese players that I guarantee you for the common American Smasher after Abadango, Kameme, and Komorakiri, the other ones are like, I don't even know who they are. Like, they couldn't name a name. They couldn't name a main or a region, and that's to no fault of them. There's like hundreds of Smashers in the world that are amazing. But again, like at home, you're not going to know who they are. But if you have a desk that contextualizes the set before it happens, saying like, look, Ned from the Midwest with a cloud that seriously doesn't joke around is about to go against Shuton, the Olimar from Japan. Like, this is a match that's actually going to really test Ned's understanding of the matchup, which I assume he hasn't played too much. Oh, well, you know, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's valuable than just being like, cut to the casters, and the casters are like, oh, who's this Olimar player, if they didn't know who he was. Or just being like, I don't know the matchup. Which
that's
is
that's actually the most frustrating thing when casters are like, I wonder who we're gonna have next. Oh, and sitting down is this guy.
Earth.
Let's see who he's gonna play. And it's like, so at our events that we do, when we do tier 1s or even tier 2s, we have this screen for casters that just shows who's up next, who they're, what region they're from, their Twitter, who they're playing for game 1, and their stage strikes. That we take like before they even sit down for the match. So like you can always look at that.
there's always that implicit racism too. When like Salem sits down there and they're like, and now we got Zenodo squaring off with the Diddy Kong, and it's like, guys, like that's not Zenodo, that's Salem. Like, oh my god, like it's funny.
It's just like doing that, just pulling like information is a whole nother staff member that either has to be on a volunteer basis or has to get paid, and it's just an insane amount of things. Like, just before this show, I did some calculations on like, all right, if I really wanted to run like an eSports analyst desk and I wanted it live at an event and I wanted to look super ESPN-like.
Let me guess how much it'll cost.
All right, let me go for it.
180,000.
All right, I'm not getting that crazy. I'm not building a whole freaking set with like
80,000.
No, I could do it for like 10 grand.
Oh, okay. Well,
so that's 3 cameras, some like minor bits of ambient lighting. It's like a nice TV in the background showing some interesting stuff, a backdrop, some camera lighting, and an actual desk and some monitors. Like, we're keeping it, so you're keeping it super bare minimum and letting them do a bunch of stuff. I mean, if you wanted to get to the point where your desk is standing there and they can turn around and like control replays with a TV and draw on it like we're doing freaking Dota.
I want the Situation Rooms TV from CNN where I can pinch and zoom on like Komura Kiri's glasses. Like,
that's a real thing, and that'd be cool if we could do it.
How much is that? Like,
oh my god,
$200, $300?
Those TVs? Yeah, totally. They're like, you know, you buy either that or like a couple webcams.
I want a smart board at my tournament venue.
So there's a lot of cool stuff that we want to do with analyst desks, and analyst desks I think are misconstrued right now. Have an open mind when someone says analyst desk. I think people need to kind of give a little more information when they just say analyst desk of like what kind of desk they want to do, because there's so much. There's pre-show analyst desk, there's post-show analyst desk, there's live analyst desk, there's like match analysis. So have an open mind with it. That's pretty much kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, and the other point too that I wanted to mention, because I think my tweet that I mentioned earlier about casters that triggered 1,700 people was the fact that a lot of times the folly of a caster isn't necessarily related just to the caster, but actually to the stream director. Like, if you don't get a monitor that sets you up to know the upcoming match or where they're from or who they are or who they play, like, that bites. And you're unfortunately going to have to take the fall when you're scratching your head and you confuse somebody for somebody else and say, oh yeah, Mars, isn't he from like Tri-State or whatever? And it's like, he's from New England. He's from Rhode Island.
Yeah, something dumb like that. So, because like I said, the guys that are casting, you know, the Super Bowl, they don't know what college the middle linebacker graduated from. There's a little sheet of paper in front of them that they go, he graduated from this college. I can say that and sound super smart. So that's actually, when I started in Smash, I actually wanted to be a commentator. So I know where you guys are coming from.
God.
No,
Sage.
actually, I started and I was like, I want to cast because it looks like fun. I wasn't taking it super seriously at the time, but like, I didn't feel like in Chicago at the time I had the tools to succeed as a caster. So I was like, forget it, I'll do production. And then I was like, okay, production's way more fun. So just because I know the struggle of like, there's no events, there's crappy stream, whatever, I want to make sure that every time I work with casters, they never feel like I'm holding them back and that my stream is always providing the tools that they need to succeed as a caster.
Yeah, like, you also take the fall if, like, TO messes up a bracket. Like, it's really tough, and you always got to be ready to roll with that, you know, sort of heat, because as the caster, as the face of the tournament, when people tune in, like, that's what people are going to regard you as. So, not an easy job.
It's a rough life. Good luck. All right, last quick topic, and we'll keep it kind of short because there's not a whole lot to talk about it. But Midwest Mayhem 8 got announced this past weekend at Midwest Mayhem 7. The North American Tour. It's pretty cool. For anyone who doesn't know, Midwest Mayhem 8 is a tournament here in Chicago where they're teaming up with 8 other organizations to put on 9 tournaments that are leading up towards Midwest Mayhem 8. 8 actual like tournaments in person, and then 1 online qualifier put on by Panda Global, where the winner of each one is going to get flown out to Midwest Mayhem 8 to create some like finale. It's not really a circuit, but it's also kind of a circuit. Like there's no pot at the end of the circuit, and there's no like Midwest Mayhem 8 is like the finale, but it's also not really a finale. It's just like a bunch of guys who won. So super cool. There's going to be tournaments all over. The first one starting with the highest placing player from SoCal at Midwest Mayhem Saga is going to get flown out for Midwest Mayhem 8. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
Glamorous. And also something that I hope sets and continue to set precedence, as we have now a Midwestern circuit and a Western circuit, with obviously 2GG leading what they're leading currently.
Well, it's not even like a Midwestern circuit, because there's events in like I think like Florida and like New England and Canada and all these different places. That there was one that was out of the country that I forget where it was, but I was like, that's cool.
Isn't it Mexico or something?
Yeah, something like that. Just a bunch of organizations. I like that now we're having these organizations working together and being like, all right, guys, let's actually all put on something together and make it really cool. And I hope that like tours almost become a staple of Smash 4, because that would be dope.
Tours?
Of just like all these organizations are like an organization will want to put on like a big event, and they'll be like, all right, like let's hit up all these other organizations. Hey, we're going to fly out the winner of this tournament for our tournament. Like, let's just all fly each other out because it's cool and everybody gets to go everywhere.
Okay, so not realistic, because everyone hates each other secretly. Or at least I do. I'm a cold bitch. But yeah, I'm really excited for Midwest Mayhem 8 and the underlying tournaments. 2017 is just, there's so much that still hasn't been revealed. It's so crazy already. God.
Yeah, so definitely keep an eye out for that. It's going to be awesome. But let's go ahead and move on into the run back now.
The run back. Can you sample that, please?
I'll put like, do you want it like super dubsteppy?
I need full distortion.
I got you.
I need ultra reverb, and I also need it in the tune of C minor diminished seventh.
You're just saying music things, and you have no idea what you're actually saying, do you?
I know what distortion and reverb, and I think C minor diminished seventh is not a real chord.
It's definitely not.
Okay. I forgot you were in a metal band. Anyways,
Run back.
the run back, we're gonna feature a question by someone by the name of Crafter Century.
So that like kind of
Anyways.
sensual.
Crafter Century. So Crafter Century edit that out.
Nope, keeping it.
Crafter Century writes, "Hey guys, still loving your stuff. Awesome. So I was actually curious, since you guys have a lot of knowledge about this, but I've been wanting to host a Smash tournament and have it run really well. What would you guys say is the absolute necessary to have it for it to be?" Okay, let me spell check them. So what would be the bare necessities for this thing to run beautifully? I want to stream the event, but it might cost a lot for equipment, so I was really curious how I could handle that. Or should I save up and not even bother with low budget? Signed, Crafter Century. You want to take a whack at that first?
Yeah, sure.
Or should I?
I
think the interesting part is where he's like, should I just save up and not even bother with the low budget? Like, are you about to put the next Boston Majors up wherever you are? Like that.
Scenes need low budget small tournaments to start. Like, I'm just gonna be honest.
Yes, they do. You will get no thanks and no money if you put on a tier 1 major like from the get-go. Like,
It's impossible. Like, Smashers, we have this like crazy tournament coming up with Frostbite where like 10 Japanese players are getting flown out, 24-hour venue, all setups are provided by like Gaming Gen, and it's gonna be like this wild. They're gonna have like an auditorium to view top 8 in, where there's just gonna be like theater seating and stuff. Like, it's gonna be really cool, and there's like 300 people signed up.
I mean, oversaturation, but that's a different topic. How do we help this guy set up a local small budget tournament? What does he need?
Okay, so yeah, I definitely say go with low budget. I say don't worry about streaming it to start. Like,
Okay, retweet, retweet. Don't worry about streaming at the start. Seriously, what? Who are you gonna stream? Who, who are you going to stream at your first low budget event that is gonna get tuned into?
if
Like,
you
worry about the bracket.
the best thing if you like, so a lot of players want to see their recorded matches and stuff. The best thing you can do at low budget, just like find a friend with a laptop and a capture card and just like record it, and just go into Premiere or Sony Vegas Pro or whatever editing software you can get your hands on, and just cut up each match and upload it to YouTube. Don't worry about commentary. Don't worry about scenes. Literally just name
Commentators.
literally just name the match and just be like done with it, because that's great. Now your players have something that they can go back and review, but you didn't need to hire a guy to sit down at a computer and stream it, and you're not going to worry about your numbers because it's not important at the beginning of an event. Biggest thing you need is a good venue. You don't want one that smells like ass. You don't want one that's going to be super crammed and dying hot, or you're going to feel like you're in the Arctic the whole time. And then setups. And after that, like, come up with a good tournament name and just like advertise to your local scene and be like, look guys, I really want to start this tournament series. I think we could use something. This is how I want to start it. We're going to see how it goes and try to grow it as like all together as a community, and I hope you guys come.
Duh. Let me flame that person. Sage is right, okay? Because I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they go on Twitch on Tuesday night and they see Xanadu at 4,000 people with TK and EE on a couch sprawled, commentating Pink Fresh and Wadi in grand finals for the 7,000th time. And they're like, all right, let's do it. And they don't take into account the amount that Gimmer and his team have put into even establishing that as being routine. And they start to try to copy, like, okay, we need the stream, we need the commentators, we need this, and that. And it's like, again, like, don't do everything at once. Like, build over time. Like I said, like, your first event, like, streaming it, like, who's going to be watching? Why do you need people to watch? That's not important at first. What's important is giving your players actually something to learn from, which are VODs, and inspiring them to do better by hosting competition. Like, oh, this kid beat me. Like, now I want to beat him next time. They get better at whatever matchup. Like, that's better than nothing. And I think that when it comes to the tech and the budgeting that you can do, like, you have to really, really, like, first of all, going and getting a venue, like, you're not going to rent a venue. I mean, I doubt, if you're saying low budget, you're not renting anything. So you have to pretty much symbiotically exist in a venue. So I've seen venues at fast food joints. They're like, hey, we'll let you guys stay here as long as everyone buys food and you can play. So everybody buys a hamburger, now they can play. And that's part of the entrance cost and whatever. They put like $3 or $4 into the pot, and everyone's playing Smash with a burger or a milkshake, and they're allowed to exist within the fast food joint. And people walk in and they're like, what the hell's going on over there? They get interested, they join it, or they diss it, they leave. But again, exists symbiotically. That's why you see so many venues at like video game stores, because, you know, gamers are probably going to buy a lanyard with Zelda. So it works out. It's traffic. So definitely look at existing with a venue that benefits the interests of your constituents. Like, don't try to host a tournament at an antique shop. Although I'm sure it's happened.
Oh, I've seen some venues, man.
Chicago venues.
Chicago has had probably more tournaments in more weird venues than any other region, because we're massive, and for a long time we couldn't hold a venue. So it was just like we had like 6 tournaments a week. At one point, I think our highest number was like 15 tournaments a week, was like weekly series, and just in every kind of place you could imagine.
How do you have like over 30 tournaments a month and still be one of the freest regions in the country?
Dude, we're terrible.
Anyways, Crafter Century, low budget, and also it's got to come from like a super, super deep sense of like love for the community, because like you're not gonna get thanked at all at first, or maybe for most of your lifetime.
For the small ones, I feel like you get more thanks than you do for the big ones.
Yeah, well, you'll get a point where like you're putting in more than you're getting. Okay.
Yeah, for
that'll
sure.
Probably be that'll probably be from like the beginning, but again, like you do it so people can meet. Like if you can even facilitate a friendship happening between two people because they're playing with items on after the tournament and they really found it funny, like that makes it worth it in the end, you know? Or if you like sparked this like competition in somebody and now they're going to a regional and they took out somebody like, I don't know, Sam Sora or someone who's like super free. Jokes, I love Sam Sora. And they get to come back and say, yeah, because I practice at such and such's venue, then that'll be worth it too. But again, like low budget, like don't focus on streaming, don't focus on anything. Just focus on making Facebook groups and Facebook events and keeping things updated, because I've been to tournaments where I Googled or Facebooked or Smashboarded like local tournaments and they pop up because they have an updated page, and I walk in and it's like, oh, there's people. I mean, that's how you connect. So, I wish you luck on that.
That's how you start.
I think that covers it.
Pretty much.
Also, don't make your venue fee something stupid, like either 5 and 5 or less. I mean, I've seen venue fee for like $10 before, and it's like, unless you're Genesis or something, early bird, like, what are you doing?
$10 is fine for a monthly.
No. 10 to enter, 5 to play.
Oh, wait, yeah, $10. Sometimes venues are expensive, man. $10 venue fee is
No. I'm saying 10 just to enter the building. There's venue fee and then tournament fee.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying venue fee at $10 is not an issue for monthlies.
I'm not talking about monthlies. I'm talking about locals.
Yeah, locals. If it's a weekly, 5-5, hands down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, monthlies, that's 10. I went to a month this weekend and spent $30 for entering singles and doubles and being there. I mean,
yeah,
that's fine. But yeah, make it cheap. I mean, like, it's not about money in the beginning anyways, and just make sure you're cool with your venue person. Make sure you pick up trash. Oh my god. Like, Smashers are awful at picking up after themselves, which is mostly having to do with the fact that our median age is like 16. But if you go to a venue and you worked out this really awesome deal and this relationship with the owner and they love you and their kid plays Smash and whatever, and after the first night there's a fortress of Chick-fil-A bags around the tables, like, you're getting booted, and that would suck to have to have put all that work into the Facebook events, the brackets, and the freaking VOD uploading, only to have some band of idiots mess it up because they didn't pick up after themselves. So impose house rules. I mean, it is their venue after all too. But I mean, Gimmer still has trouble with that at Xanadu, and he shames them on Twitter for it. He takes videos of it and he's like, this is not okay, because it's not. So make sure you take care of the venue so it takes care of you too. So that'll be the end of the run back. We only had one question, but we also hit over an hour, so we're just gonna wrap it up here. So your hosts today was Panda Global Suar and Unrivaled Tournaments Sage, who will now take us out to the outro. See you guys next week, and hope you enjoyed the show.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the Set Count. As always, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, pretty much every major podcast site. If there's not one, definitely hit us up on Twitter at the Set Count for either the run back questions or to let us know where else you'd like it uploaded. And of course, you can always email your questions as well to thesetcount@gmail.com. We appreciate everyone's feedback every week. We try to get to every question. We have a couple questions still that we have sitting in our banks. We haven't quite hit yet, but we definitely will. Anyways, that'll do it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good night.